In a few hours' time, the chief executive of BP, Tony Hayward, can expect a scorching interrogation by a US congressional committee. Meanwhile, shareholders of BP on both sides of the Atlantic are still digesting yesterday's agreement that the company will suspend its dividends and put $20 billion into a fund for compensating victims of the Gulf of Mexico oil spill. The company's shares are widely held by pension funds in the US and the UK, so millions of ordinary people will be affected by this. Well, Micheal Hewson joins me now. He's a market analyst with CMC Markets here in the City of London. Welcome to NewsHour.
Hello, good to be here.
Good. Now, remind us first of all, how many Americans own shares in BP?
I believe it's 39% of all BP shareholders are American.
So a lot of the American people who are quite understandably worried about the oil spill and are attacking BP for what they've done probably also own shares in it, and often without realising it, because it will be via their pension funds.
Via their pension funds or directly through owning the BP shares that are traded on the New York Stock Exchange. Yeah, that's right.
Now, what effect has yesterday's news that BP is going to suspend its dividends and put $20 billion into a compensation fund, what effect's that had on the share price?
It's actually boosted the share price.
Why is that?
Strangely enough, because it's probably the least worst scenario that could have come out of the meeting with President Obama yesterday. I think the problem that's been dogging the share price over the past few days and weeks has been the uncertainty surrounding the rhetoric coming out of the US, the politicians bashing BP, the perception that some of the rhetoric has been anti-British because of the fact that President Obama persists in calling it British petroleum.
Once, I think.
Oh, once or twice, but it wasn't just President Obama. I think it was a couple of other people as well. And that didn't play very well over here. And the fact is there's also other companies involved in this as well. And there's a sense that BP's been tried and convicted before there's been a proper inquiry. And
without any accessories also being tried and convicted.
Exactly.
Like the owner of the rig.
Yeah, something like that. And I think it has played quite badly.
But you talk about the lifting of the uncertainty, but actually President Obama was at pains to say that there was no cap, that this $20 billion wasn't a cap. I mean, it could be more than that. There could be all sorts of class actions.
Yeah, there could be, but those class actions are going to take, sort of years to play out in court, because first and foremost, they've got to have the inquiry. What went wrong? Who messed up? Was it completely BP's fault? They're 65% owners of this venture, along with Transocean, Halliburton and Cameron International, who basically designed the blowout preventer, which was the fail-safe mechanism that in the event everything else went wrong...
Failed to prevent the blowout.
Yeah, it actually failed to prevent the blowout. So, obviously BP has been negligent. I think that's fairly apparent. They've never denied that they're not going to basically stand by their obligations. They've never once said that. Yet these sort of smaller companies have sort of been pushed into the background, maybe because they're American owned, or maybe for a number of political reasons they've been overlooked.
Well, let's go back to BP shares, because a lot of people own BP shares for their income.
That's
and
right.
I'm thinking of pensioners, for instance, who have put their savings into these sorts of shares and rely on their dividends. What effect is it going to have on them?
Well, it's not going to be good for them. I don't think there's anything. There's no getting away from that. It's not going to help, and I think that's what has also driven the share price lower. I think some pensioners may have already sold out of their shareholdings, and the fact is that £14 of every £100 of dividends that comes out of the FTSE goes in pensions with respect to BP. So it is
really?
a big
14%.
14%. Yes, £1 in every 7. So, it's...
So does that mean that my pension could be only 6/7 of what it otherwise would have been?
Well, obviously, if it goes on, I mean, what these pension funds tend to do is they go into what is perceived as safe income-bearing shares. Now, on top of what happened over the past 2 years with the banks, it's a whammy that they really didn't need.
Okay. Micheal Hewson, thank you very much.